Okay, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Okay, so I'm here recording this lecture to explain to you how what is theory and how it is important in your research. So based on this, according to this, no, na the ultimate goal of science is theory formation. So we may define theory as a set of interrelated constructs and propositions that represents an explanation of phenomena and makes predictions about relationships among variables relevant to the phenomena. So, ang mga theory, sila ang bind together different sets of observations wherein kaning mga researchers or scientists, they can make statements about variables and correlation of these variables. So the purpose of theories, so kasi without these theories, your research is nonsense. So they organize your empirical findings, the results of your research, and explain phenomena. Murag kumbaga sila ang basis ngano man ni siya nga certain event or ngano na ani na phenomena na hitabo, and to predict phenomena, stimulate new research. So I believe na mention din siya no sa video sa module 1. So balik lang na ako siya. So a theory organizes the findings from many separate observations and investigations into a framework that provides explanations of a phenomena. Okay, so these are the criteria of theory, no? It should be able to explain observed facts, okay, and relating to a particular problem. And a theory should be consistent with observed facts and with the already established body of knowledge. So, consistent dapat siya na while the theory explains an observed fact, it is also related to what is already established in the body of knowledge. Okay? Example, di ba, we have three laws of motion, no? So, and then other theory relevant to it. So, you can, it must establish a connection between the body of knowledge. A theory should provide means for its verification. So, we can verify a theory by conducting a research through quantifiable measures or qualitative measures. So, a theory should stimulate new discoveries and indicate further areas in need of investigation. So, part of your research is a theoretical framework. That's why gina-require ta mo na mag research of theories that can anchor your research variables. So, you already have variables, diba? So, we will search for theories that is relevant to your research variables. So a good theory expands vision, guides thinking, and professional practices in research. So as I mentioned, it will also be used as the basis and support for the results of the study. So this is an example of theories, no, by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So ang research title ani niya is Influence of Talent Management on Employee Retention in Software Development Companies in Davao del Norte, an explanatory approach. Usually, there are two variables here, no? The talent management and the employee retention. So basically, Maslow's hierarchy of needs can be related in either of the two. So, however, we need to justify that there will be different theory that explains talent management and different theory also for employee retention. Another theory is this research, no, creating a central places geographic model for business operators in Panabo City. So the theory used here is the position theory, It's a marketing theory where it explains that a certain product is relevant to where the company or store is positioned. Okay? So, very related kay siya, no? Kay about mo ni siya sa kanang mag-create og geographic model para sa small business operators. So, if ever na ako'y results na ay kanina store um, ay ibutang nimo ang kanina store ani na kung ano na ni area because there are a lot of people there might be a lot of roads and etc. So those are some factors which explains by the position theory. Okay, so let's check other ano no um, let's check other examples. Let's say this. So, ilang title is the Internet Connectivity and Learning Interest among BSDRM students in Davao del Norte State College. So, there are two variables, no? And then, as you notice, based on the title palang daan, they want to connect or determine if there is a significant relationship between the variables which are internet connectivity and learning interest. So here in their theoretical framework, no, ilahang theory is e-learning theory by Hay Thornwaite and Andrews. Okay, so gi-explain nilang theory. Of course, no, kay e-learning theory and ilahang title is internet connectivity and learning interest. So, it's very relevant for their um, for their research. So sa ilahang gibuhat, they only use one theory for this, no? And although it doesn't really matter, no, kung isa, duha, basta lang ma-justify siya. And usually, dili ta nagakuha og what we call of indicators per variable. So later ako ang explain nun saan man ang indicators. So let's have another example. So, relationship between digital marketing and economic stability of online sellers in Panabo City. Okay, so kaya ka ilang theoretical framework. So, theoretical framework is on chord with sharing economy theory by Lawrence Lessig. So, dira daw nila gikuha ang mga geeks, mutabang sila mo explain sa results sa study and mo justify sa mga indicators na ilahang gamiton later on or nagamit nila. Okay, so isa lang po siya ka theory. Okay, so that's it, no? So dapat ano jud siya, the theory must be crafted siya by a philosopher, by a scientist, a researcher, and then applied siya to a specific phenomena and ma-explain niya ang isa ka event and transparent siya or consistent siya with already established body of knowledge. Okay? So, ana dapat siya. Na ay nagbuhat ana na theory. Dili lang kay nag-research lang siya lang ta somewhere. Okay? So, we will now proceed with the research the research indicators, no. Explain lang na ako siya, pati na lang po ang conceptual framework, no. So example, this is the title, IT core competencies and employees job performance, a correlation study in selected organizations in Davao City. So the research variables here is IT core competencies and employees job performance. So, one part sa chapter 1 ninyo is mag-create mo og conceptual framework. So, a conceptual framework will explain the process of your study. So, yes, no, as I mentioned, represents the researcher's synthesis of the literature or the literature review, and it maps out the actions required in the course of study. As I mentioned, the process. So, The conceptual framework is the understanding of the researchers how the particular variables in his study connect with each other. So thus, it identifies the variables required in the research investigation. So, masyag map in pursuing the investigation. So, example, this is an example of conceptual framework. So, balik ta sa title, no? First is we have your titles, diba? Nagpa-identify ko sa inyong title, nagpa-create ko title sa inyo, ha? And you need to know how to identify variables on your title, diba? So, here are the variables, no? IT core competencies and lahi ang employee's job performance. So, in the conceptual framework, so nata diri, the IT core competencies na sa left side and employee job performance. So, this is a correlation analysis study. So, pag ingana siya, wala siya arrowhead. So, nalang siya linya padulong. Diri, the first variable, IT core competencies and employee job performance. So, later na lang ning about this. So, unsa man ni siya, no? These are the research variables kaning duha, di ba? IT core competencies and employee job performance. So, under the IT core competencies is these three, no? Critical thinking skills, creativity and design skills, and internet office application skills. Ang tawag na to ana sa employee job performance sa siya productivity, cost effectiveness, creativity of work. Ang tawag na to ana are research indicators. So, these research indicators are indicators which is under the variable. So, asa na ito na ginakuha ang research indicators? Makuha na to ang research indicators from theories na inyong na-research or from different sets of research articles relevant sa imong variables. Example, no, sa IT core competencies, pangita kag research na naka-define siya mga factors affecting IT core competencies. So, pwede ka kaon ni mo tutanan, buta na itong na 5 ka factors dito, or you can just select 3 in the factors, no? So, same with employee job performance. Nakita ka research article na gina-measure niya ang job performance sa isa ka employee. So, factors ba, no? Unsa mga factors sana. So, these are research indicators. So that's why I'm asking you to research on questionnaires kay para dali na lang sa inyo mo identify og indicators. Okay? So nata example later on sa questionnaire. Kay kani siya kani mga indicators dito nigikan sa already existing na mga research questionnaire. Okay? So, later on, I will give an example. So, next is age group, gender, type of school graduated, and job position level. So, ang tawag na to ana is mga moderating variables wherein it will intervene or moderate these two variables. Sige lang, pag moabot na tao Module 5, it will be reiterated to you. So, ang moderating variables will just get the significant difference of the two group of means. No? Example, sa gender. So, unsa may difference sa IT core competencies kung male siya or female siya. Okay? So, di ba nanata sa module 2, which is inferential statistics, na to indicate the significant difference of two groups of sample means. Okay? So, example, kaning type of school graduated, unsa may difference sa employee job performance kung nasa sa private or nasa sa public ni graduate. Okay, so these are moderating variables. So, inyong questionnaire, kamo lang man bahala na sa questionnaire. Usually, part 1, part 2 na siya. Asa siya nabilong na age group, asa siya nabilong na gender, etc. Okay. So, dito lang sa tatama, no, I will just show you an example of a questionnaire. Okay, wait lang. I'll search muna. Okay. save. Just a moment. Moment of silence muna. Lansag. Okay. Asan mo nilabot ang chapter 2. Okay, I'll just search it. So, we will research for their questionnaire, sample questionnaire that will explain about getting indicators. Hopefully na-agree. That's just a chapter 2 responses and questionnaire here. So let's have an example with here, hopefully. Okay, their title is The Spread of False Information on Social Media and its Effects on the Perception of Social Media Users. So, ang variable diri is the spread of information, no? And then, ang object is basically social media sites. So, the two variables here, spread of false information and perception of social media users. So, this is the informed consent. I'll just give you an example of this. This is very important, no, in the questionnaire to give to ask consent from the participants. Okay. So muna ni siya ang part 1, no, as I mentioned katong moderating variables, no, the age, gender, year level, and kunay program. So first is the variable 1. This is spread of false information. So, gibutang pa nila, no, ang sample na, I mean, the reference kung asa nila gikan ni siya nga na mga survey. Okay? So, later on, pag magbuhat na mong questionnaire, butang po na ninyo. Okay? So, that's why I'm asking you, no, to look for questionnaires na nanadaan na questionnaires para katunalan atong gamiton ng mga indicators, no, para sa ani na nasa indicators first is indicator para sa false information. So, inaccurate information, social media misuse, and credibility. So, mao na siya ang indicators para sa false information on social media sites. And by the way, mao ni dapat ang structure sa inyong questionnaire later on, no? Naka-Likert scale siya. Ang tawag 5-point Likert scale na 5 means strongly agree, 4 agree, and 1 is strongly disagree. So na po yung mga other lahi-lahi lang ni mga equivalent example, excellent or satisfactory or amenable, but it would be better kung inani lang siya. Okay? And then, so part 3 nila, which is the second variable, perspective of social media users. So, napod sila'y reference. So, ilahang indicators is self-perception, knowledge level, and subjectivity. Okay? So, mo na siya inyuhang ibutang diri sa kaning indicators. Okay? Sa per variable. So, that's why dili nang ta maglisod og magbuhat-buhat pa ta og sarili natong questionnaire. Okay? Kung namoy nakita na research questionnaire and then ay mga factors no or indicators pero dili siya naka 1 2 3 4 5, naka yes or no lang siya. Okay ra lang siya pero sa ato adjong actual questionnaire is ato adjud siyang usabon into 5 4 3 2 1 or 1 2 3 4 5 and then we'll just paraphrase yung mga questions here or the statements. Okay? So, balik ta dito sa atong these are the research variables nato. Okay? So, the moderating variables and research indicators. So, the IT core competencies, these are the research indicators. Then, employee job performances are the research indicators. So, I do have a questionnaire for that. I hope na siya din. Okay. I just can't remember asan ito. Masters. Research. Ayan. So, ayan, this is the research questionnaire. I made it in my master's years. Okay, so balik na din, no? So, sa IT core competencies mo ni ang mga indicators. Okay, so strongly agree gyapon, no? Strongly disagree. So, akong gibuhat rin gibaliktad siya, pero mas better kung 5 ang strongly agree. So, na siya daan, no? IT core competencies is na ang critical thinking skills, design creativity skills, and basic computer and office application skills. Mas better kung lima-lima jud siya or upat-upat. Okay, the same number of questions. And then sa employee job performance, ang indicators niya is quantity of work, cost effectiveness, and creativity of work. So dapat sa indicators ninyo na at least tulo ka buok indicators under each variables. Okay, at least tulo. So if you have difficulty with searching for questionnaire, so what you're going to do is pwede nga kani nga indicator, example, ang indicator 1 kay na siya sa lahi na questionnaire, and then kaning creativity and design skills na po sa lahi na questionnaire, and then you can combine that into one questionnaire basta na lang tay reference. Okay, para sa ani ilang gibuhat nga naa sila reference na gibutang. So okay lang na siya nga ang kaning productivity sa employee job performance nakita ninyo siya sa lahi na article, and then kaning cost effectiveness napud siya sa lahi na article. It's okay for that. Basta it is under the variable na employee job performance. As I mentioned, asa man na siya pangitaon, usually you can search for sa internet, no, mga literature reviews, kani mga indicators, no, mga literature reviews, mga articles na mga research articles or mga web articles na you can anchor on, no, or research, no. Usually let's say factors for job performance. Okay, naman na siya may anak, no. Okay, example kani key factors that influence job performance. Wala siya ganyan kanila. Okay, factors 3 key factors that will improve employee performance. Example, your variable is employee performance. So medyo hinay ako, internet. Ayan. So, actually, pwede man siya, pero mas better jud kung research article siya. So, nasa tulo ka factors diri, no, na gi-mention. Job satisfaction, training and development, employee engagement, goals and expectation, tools and equipment, and moral and company culture. So, you can select the 6, no, pero taas ra kay siya. You can just select the top 3, no? Example, the top 3 is job satisfaction, training development, and employee engagement. So, naka-indicators for your variable na employee job performance. Next, yung buhaton is mangita o mga questions or questionnaire related to employee performance nga under on each of these indicators. Okay? So, that's why I'm asking you to find first theories and find research questionnaires. Okay. Sorry. Mas naman ito isa ka. Okay. Okay, natin. So, find first research theories and research questionnaire. Kaya dito mangod sa research questionnaire, pwede na nato makuha ang mga indicators. Kung dili jud mo kita, next yung buhaton is mangita og articles or web articles, research journals, research articles nga explaining the factors or mga indicators or literature review on your variables. So another example will be, let's say, learning interest. So let's say factors for learning interest. Okay, o na siya publication. So according here, no, according to this title, the key factors affecting students' individual interests. So the five factors affecting in students' interests is situational influence in social science lessons, individual interest in science, science self-concept, grade level, and gender. So nga na ang mga factors. So pwede mo what you call this? You can use that, no, as your basis, pero murag science man gud siya, so basig layo ra kaayo. But anyways, you can anchor on that example. So ako ang gina-require, so atong gina-require is at least 3 indicators per variable. Okay? Just like this, no? IT core competencies na itulo ka indicators, employees job performance na itulo ka indicators. Okay? Usually, as I mentioned, no, makuha ni siya sa mga theories, makuha siya sa mga research instrument or questionnaire na inyong na-search, or sa mga web articles, research articles, journals. So, mabilit na ito makita. We found out findings. Okay. Na siya pero naibayad ang Okay. So anyways, no, that's it, no. That's the important part. So what I will be requiring to you, as I mentioned, before we start with our chapter 1 is theories. Anchor your research variables. Pwede 1 or 2 theories. Pwede ka nang isa lang siya ka theory, pero ma-justify niya ang duha ka variables. Kung maglisod mo na ay correlation ato, you will be required to isa ka theory for this first ninyo na variable and another theory for your second variable. Asa na siya makita? Sa mga research journals, etc. Mga web articles. Basta theory jud siya. It was crafted by a philosopher, a scientist, a researcher, and it was based on observed facts, and it was utilized by different researches or studies. Next will be your conceptual framework na lang, no? So this is an example of your conceptual framework. Kanin siya. This is an example. Part of the conceptual framework is your research variables and the indicators, and kung need ninyo og moderating variables, ana siya ang dagway niya. Okay, so conceptual frameworks with the research variables, indicators per variable, and moderating variables. And then lastly is your research instrument or questionnaire. Okay. Dili lang siya final, no. You just look in the online sources for research instrument and questionnaire. Ngano gani kailangan na to research instrument and questionnaire? To look for possible indicators. Ani sila. Basig nanay mga indicators. So, at least mo na to siya na questionnaire atong gamiton. We will just improve it or change it into a 5-point Likert scale. So, kung walay research instrument or questionnaire na naadjuling tulon, no, or naaning duha, pwede ra pod nga kaning critical thinking skills, the first indicator na siya sa lahi na questionnaire, and creativity and design skills na pod siya sa lahi na questionnaire, and we will just combine it into one questionnaire. Okay? So, mas better man gud nga mangita ta daan og research instrument and questionnaire para mao na to siya inyuhang indicators. So again ha, dili mo magbuhat og indicators nga kamo-kamo lang. Okay? Dapat na jud mo'y basis. Ang basis ninyo, as I mentioned, the theories, ang mga research articles or mga web articles or dito sa inyong research questionnaires na inyong na-search sa mga online sources, sa journal, websites, etc. Okay? So I do hope that I explained it to you, no? And para makasugod na po ta sa ato ang chapter 1. Okay, so see you on our next meeting. I hope we can meet next week or not, maybe after the Holy Week. Okay, so good evening to everyone. So goodbye.